The Muslims left a very impressive history and strong impact, because the 800 years in Muslim Spain, or called Andalus or Andalusia, has witnessed a very flourishing civilization based on knowledge and on great culture. And the centers of culture there and education, which were the universities, were the first to be known in Europe. And to them went or came all members, or many members of the noble class of Western Europe and Central Europe, who were educated there exactly the same way as nowadays we see from Muslim world, the elite and the different people who are ambitious to learn and to acquire knowledge send their children to the Western universities to learn the up-to-date technology and knowledge. So that was the beginning, the real beginning of the modern civilization. And I think Andalus deserves to be called the cradle of our civilization, because from there started the true civilization of the West.
Part of this heritage still survives in modern Britain. For example, Britain's first purpose-built mosque is still standing to this day. Although Islam is a part of British history, it was in fact illegal to practice Islam in the UK until the Trinitarian Act of the late 19th century. And this allowed William Henry Quilliam, a British convert to Islam, to open the first mosque in Britain. Quilliam had travelled through France, Algeria and Morocco, and eventually accepted Islam in 1887, becoming Abdullah Quilliam. On his return to the UK, he opened Britain's first mosque in Liverpool. In this mosque, over 150 people converted to Islam, and they would meet every Friday for Friday prayers, where they would share stories and sing hymns in praise of God.
As I said, there were conquests going all over Europe, but together with that, there were also the peaceful activities and transactions which does not involve military confrontation. So the Muslims, being great traders of the world, whether they are Arabs or Indians or different nations who have long traditions in trade, they have built great navy and great fleets, and most of them were trade and going all around the world and exploring the coasts. So we have reports that some of these settlements on the shores of Britain have started to appear as early as the 13th century. And these communities, some of them survived shortly or very short, and others stayed there for over a century or 2 centuries. And we have to dig hard, because there's not much excavations to come to their remnants. Although we got some clues about things from much later, let's say 15th and 16th century, in form of coins and some artifacts which indicate a strong relation between the British coasts and Muslim world, especially Spain, which was due to proximity, of course.
Abdullah Quilliam and the other early converts to Islam were often persecuted and victimized because of their beliefs. I wanted to find out if other converts to Islam in Britain have had similar problems in more recent times. I spoke to Sister Batul, who became a Muslim in Ireland 30 years ago.
When you become a Muslim first, the intensity of the experience drives you into a kind of a zealousness or a deeply committed response to Islam, to the change, to what's happening within your life. And you tend to sort of drop everything, you throw the baby out with the bathwaters sometimes. So you become totally confused about what is Islamic, what is cultural, what needs to be retained, what needs to be carried on. And in fact, sometimes the problem was that I was getting a lot of bad advice from the Muslims in the Muslim community, telling me that, perhaps I shouldn't have such close relations with my family, that perhaps I shouldn't be doing this and that, which obviously had huge difficulties for me and created huge problems. And I had to go back and revisit all that re-establish relationships with my families, with my confrontational brothers and sisters who weren't very happy about what I did, with my parents who were supportive but pained by the choices that I had made, and so on and so forth. So it was a matter of rebuilding bridges that I had demolished on my path towards Islam. Right, we're living in exciting times, changing times. The eyes of the world are upon us. The eyes of our street are upon us. The eyes of our neighbours are upon us. The eyes of the community, the country, and the world. So we're living in very challenging times, but very exciting times as Muslims. Have things happened? Yes, of course. But no more than as a young Catholic woman visiting London or visiting the UK, where, you know, something might have happened in Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland situation may have been brought to London, and people, just ordinary citizens going about their business, might have been killed in a bomb blast or something, was as embarrassing to me then as a Catholic Muslim, you know, as something like 9/11 has been to me. For the first time, I mean, I watched 9/11 unfold, as of course many of us did, and I hoped it wasn't Muslims. In fact, I prayed and I thought, because of how it was engineered, it couldn't have been Muslim. And at that time, I have to say, it was the first time in the years since my mother had died, the previous years since my mother had died, I was glad she was dead, because I felt I couldn't really sit in front of her and explain this to her, explain this catastrophic, traumatic situation, which was focused on normal people, you know, sort of just going to work, and how they could have been killed for the purposes of Islam or Muslims or the world of Islam, whatever. And I felt that it would have been extremely hard for me to interpret the Quran in the way that those people had interpreted the Quran and carried out this devastating attack on normal human beings. And the other sad thing about it was that it broke the bridges, those very delicate bridges that all converts try to rebuild with their non-Muslim family over the years. And the delicacy of those bridges have to be fully understood before you can realize the impact of that on the convert to Islam and their family. And so these bridges are constantly being broken and rebuilt and broken and rebuilt right throughout the life of the convert, through the tragedies and the situations that occur around the world. So it is very difficult. But I have to say that, you know, I think things are changing, people are changing, things are getting better. I think perhaps out of those sad occasions has come a strength within the Muslim community and an appreciation by many, many non-Muslims that actually, you know, Islam stands for peace and doesn't, you know, in any way provoke or encourage or support